Welcome to another episode of Rugby Lives Here on One Play Sports, where we look at the personalities that make up the Singapore Rugby Union. And today we have the High Performance Manager, Malcolm Retnam from Singapore Rugby. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Duncan.
How did you get into rugby? We had a chat prior to coming online, and you said you never really made it to the very, very top. But let's start off from how your love and passion for the game started.
Funny story to start, right? I chose rugby, and that was by chance.
Yeah.
And this was in school, right? Secondary school. I didn't play rugby from secondary 1, 2, 3, or 4. You know, I only started when I was 17. Okay, and that was during my O-levels. And the funny story here is the school that I attended in secondary school, they didn't have football. So, well, they had football at the start, and what happened was the players sort of beat up the referee at one of the matches, so they banned football in school, right? You know, and
good that you qualified that.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So they came up with rugby, right, as a sport in view of football, and I think we'll all be wondering, rugby, you know, it's a people say it's a hooligan sport, you know, but I think the perspective of the game, you know, it's very different, and this is what we need to understand: the values that rugby brings, you know, to the sport and to the people who play it, right? So I needed CCA points for O-levels, right? You know, so I had asked my parents, and they had no choice. So this is the reason why they didn't allow me to play rugby. You know, old school parents just study, you know, no CCA and all that. So in the end, they allowed me. So my rugby started when I was 17 in school. My coach at that time was coaching a club. So I started playing club level when I was 17. But when I was 19, I was actually working for Singapore Rugby as a regional development officer, coaching schools, primary schools, secondary schools. And then I went to national service. Okay, so when I came out, I actually didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know, the thought of coming out after national service with no concrete plans. And I said, hey, I've been coaching for this number of years, because when I was 18, I took my level 1 coaching certificate.
Okay.
And back then it was called International Rugby Board. Now it's called World Rugby. Okay, and I said, hey, I have the cert, I have the qualifications, you know, I can try. So I came out from national service, and I called up one of the teachers in school, and I said, hey, can I coach your school? And he said, okay, and that started me off coaching, right? The coaching involvement was 20 years, you know, because Singapore Rugby is the only governing body in Singapore, and whatever programs you do in terms of rugby, they are the ones who will manage the program, school program. So I've always worked with Singapore Rugby, and back then my general manager was Rizal Saad, and my head of rugby was Sam Chan. So he called me up sometime in 2007, and he said, hey, Malcolm, we need to fill in a development manager spot in the office. And I said, okay, I'll join, you know, since I've really had the knowledge and experience, right? So the start of my life or journey in Singapore Rugby was actually team manager for the women's team, the 7s and the 15s. And that was the best thing ever, you know. So I was traveling, and from there, you know, in the army, they have this thing that's called the tour of duty, where you do different vocations, right? So I actually started off coaching in Singapore Rugby. I started off as a team manager. Then I went on to manage some of the development officers. And then I also went to manage the competitions, okay? And I was also team manager for the men's team.
Yeah.
So I did that for a couple of years, and now it's 2020.
Yeah.
It's been 13 years full-time with Singapore Rugby, yeah.
And not only just in Singapore Rugby, but with World Rugby as well, you were involved with them as an educator. Can you tell us what that is? And now you've kind of been promoted to a trainer. So explain to everyone watching what an educator at World Rugby does and what a trainer does now.
So, you know, when you attend courses, right, and I talk about rugby, right, World Rugby courses, there is that instructor. just like coaching, right?
Yeah.
There's a coach. So there's the instructor. So he's called the educator.
Okay.
So he will deliver the coaching courses, level 1, level 2. So I was asked to go on this course, and if I qualify, I can be an educator. And I think this was another best thing ever because the thing that really, really is close to my heart is I've made many friends
Sure.
from being an educator, and I've made more family than friends now traveling and delivering courses. You have a group of 15 to 20 people who come in for the courses, all walks of life, and that was really interesting. So like you asked Duncan, from educator to trainer.
Yeah.
So the role of the educator is just to deliver the courses
Yep.
to the coaches, and the role as a trainer is to train the educators to deliver the courses
Okay.
to the coaches. So I think that was a good, maybe 5 years later. The trainer role is not something you actually call up World Rugby and say, hey, I want to be a trainer. So that was something which you can say one of the milestones, one of my achievements being a trainer, being asked to go on the trainer course.
You've done pretty well for yourself, starting very, very late on and to be involved, as you said, doing the tour of duty through Singapore Rugby, getting involved with World Rugby. So very good job to you. Kudos to you for doing that. So very much involved with Singapore Rugby. You're now the high performance manager. What is the high performance manager? What is your role? What are you expected to deliver to the national team?
So when we talk about high performance, right, we're talking about the national team, which is high performance in the NSA, right, National Sporting Association. So I manage the national team, the men's and the women's. Okay, what we do is we manage the trainings for them, manage the strength and conditioning, the administrative part, which is getting the S&C coach. Okay, what his deliverables will be for the team. Putting training schedules together, putting training programs together, and sometimes, if I can say, being a nanny to some of the guys and the girls, you know what I mean. They say, hey, Malcolm, I can't make it for training, because this, that, the other, and all that. So those are the things I manage.
And this is the core group you're talking about. I know Terence came on in a previous episode and says that there is a core group where they are given not special treatment, but given the extra tools to deliver at the highest level.
So I think why it's mentioned core group is because we do have a new technical director who's come on board to manage the high performance team, right? And at this point, when he came in, we were not able to form a team yet because he was in the early stages of the tournaments, right? So when he came in November, December, we called it a core group. So everybody was training together, both the men's and the women's, right? So you're right. Terence mentioned they're not given special treatment, but they're given a special focus on what they need to be doing, which is to train hard and play for the country.
Yeah. So I mean, last year results weren't really great for the men's and women's SEA Games. So I was there. Less said about that, the better. What changes need to be made or have been made for the national team?
Yes, SEA Games was last year and it's over now, right? Looking forward, 2020. So it was unfortunate that Simon Mannix, the technical director, he came in at not the best part of the time, given this world issue, right? This COVID thing. So he did not manage to carry on the training sessions for the core group. Because everything stopped at March into April, right? So he had certain strategies in place, for a face-to-face training, for the practical sessions, for the training sessions that he wanted for the core group. And when all this stopped in March, we came together and we said, hey, we need to do something, for the players. We can't just let them go just because it's COVID and, stay at home or work from home, right? So he and the strength and conditioning coach and myself, we sat down and we said, the players could do remote training. There's an app, right? They use, it's called Team Builder. So the strength and conditioning coach would give them a training session, okay, a training plan, a training schedule, and they will go and do their runs. For example, it's 6 sessions a week. If they complete 3, it's 50% done.
Yeah.
And as long as they log it in, we can note that they have done their sessions. And my job at that time, of course, was to run after and police the guys that did not do that. So, and if I may add, I was part of this training session, and I myself were doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, and some of the coaches, Simon and.
So that's motivation for the players as well, to see if these guys are doing it, we need to be doing it as well.
Correct. I'm lucky. I'm 40 this year. Still knees and joints still working.
Sure.
So I was still able to do it. So yeah. So the remote training was one of the strategies put in place, which was good. The players enjoyed it because they were still contactable.
Yeah.
They didn't feel left out. Like, okay, we'll see you in 3 months. They were all there doing the training individually. But reporting and on the group chat we're exchanging who's done what, who hasn't done what, and I'm saying so and so, you haven't done your session, and he's like, no, I did it. Just kind of So it was fun. It was fun.
So the strength and conditioning aspect was still alive and well during this
very
period.
Much, very much.
What's the relationship like with you and Simon? How do you guys work together? What's the is someone the good cop, one is the bad cop, or how do you synergize together?
I think. Up to now, we still don't know who's the good cop and the bad cop. But what we wanted was, again, aligning the focus that we had for the core group, which was them training, right? Of course, I would like to say that Simon is the bad cop because at times he will call me and he say, Malcolm, so-and-so isn't training, can you chase him,
Sure.
So-and-so isn't training, can you chase her? So I guess
you end up being the bad cop.
Yeah, so from being the good cop, I end up being the bad cop, right? So whichever way the players look at it. But I think it was good in that sense. Simon was giving me some information on how to manage the players in his way, Simon comes from a very good coaching background when he was coaching elsewhere, right? So I took that from him, and I took that the way that I would manage the players. I put that together, and we worked together like that, just updating each other. Who's on, who's off, and then we also had some players who went into national service, so we had to rejig the player list and all that. Yeah.
Tell us more a little bit about the national coaching group where you are working with coaches from the clubs here in Singapore. It's an initiative started by SRU. Why was that started, and what is the idea behind it?
So, like I said, Simon Mannix came in at a very challenging time. He wanted local coaches to get on board this coaching panel.
Okay.
It made up of the local coaches and also expat coaches. And when I say expat coaches, I'm talking about coaches who come here, not coaches, people who come here on business work. They're here on a 3-month contract or 3-year contract. They're involved with rugby elsewhere in the UK or France or wherever, right? So what we did was, like I said, it was a blessing in disguise, COVID. Every Monday for 2 months in April, May, and just a little bit into June, every Monday at 7 p.m., we would have a Zoom call, where all the coaches were there. It was really interesting because all of us suddenly now have to be Zoom experts, right?
Yes.
Overnight. So some of them didn't know how to mute and unmute themselves, Some of them had their family walking in the background, some of them had their dogs. This happened every Monday. And after the second, third session, Simon would task the coaches to deliver. Okay. So, and one of the reasons why we want that is we also want the grassroots coaches who are coaching at the secondary schools, at the universities, at the club level even, right, to be aligned with the national team coaching strategy. We don't expect them to have to follow very closely with everything, but aligned in one way or another.
The philosophy, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, coaching philosophies, like you said. So Simon would task the coaches, and the coaches would come back. And one of the things which I found very interesting, even for myself, right, been in rugby for the last 13 years, 15 years, was doing video analysis. Okay, like I said, if there wasn't COVID, the coaches wouldn't have had time to do this. So video analysis is a way of analyzing a certain part of the play or the match during in the game, right? So the coaches were tasked to watch past Super Rugby matches or past World Cup matches or or club matches, our Singapore League matches, right? And take a little bit from there, okay? Be the ruck maul tackle, that part of the game, analyze, break it down, and then coach how better the player could have done it.
Yeah.
The breakdown of skills and the error correction, So that was really interesting because on a normal day, we wouldn't have time going to work, right? So the video analysis that Simon introduced was really, really important. It was impactful for the coaches, Yeah.
So I think it forces the coaches to think outside the box as well. It makes them have to improve what they can provide to the players. You've traveled with the team, the men's and women's, as part of as team manager, now as high performance manager. You've seen them take on various other countries. How far are we away? I know there's a gap in rugby, but how far are we away from, how to say, beating the giants, but going up to the next level and improving our status?
I think we need to understand there's the sevens aspect and the 15th aspect of the game as well. Of course, you mentioned giants. We're talking about teams like Japan and maybe even Sri Lanka, right? But that's the sevens. Of course, the 15th Japan played in the last World Cup, and they did really, really well given an Asian country, right? So I think here we need to focus on the strategy. We need to focus on the strategy. We need to focus on delivering or applying what the technical director wants to do with the team. Like I said, it's all been a big stop here, right? There wasn't a chance to carry on. So I think when rugby starts again, rugby starts again, training starts again, face-to-face training, we got training. It could be a really solid platform to sort of refresh, like a restart when they call it, in rugby terms, they call it a restart, right?
Yeah.
So that they can focus on training, and carry on from there. Yeah.
Really looking forward to the return of rugby, and I think with Malcolm, the bad cop, in charge of the high performance stakes in Singapore Rugby, I'm sure that Singapore Rugby will improve their status in Asian rugby. I'm sure about that. Thanks so much for joining us on Rugby Lives Here. It's been a pleasure. As always, join us every Thursday as we will bring you episodes of Rugby Lives Here on One Place Sports at 7 p.m. We will see you next week.